This is the brand new Moza HMA150 3DOF motion platform. It is undoubtedly the company's biggest release yet, and it is the product that I've most thoroughly tested. I've had it for a few months, I've taken it to several events, I brought it to the Sim Racing Expo in Charlotte, hundreds of people have literally used this exact unit, I've broken it, I've fixed it, and today I'm here to tell you why this $3,000 motion system is a game-changing product in the world of motion platforms, but with a few caveats. If you are in the market for a good quality yet affordable sim racing cockpit, seat, monitor mount accessories, or so much more, make sure to check out SixSigmaSimRacing.com. Serving the US and Canadian market, Six Sigma have got you covered with free shipping, a wide range of aluminum profile sim racing cockpits at all prices, and they're also a distributor for Moza, Aztec, Q Controls, and others. Right now, they're also hooking you guys up with 5% off code OCRacing at checkout. So again, make sure to visit their website using the link in the video description, and thank you again to Six Sigma Sim Racing for sponsoring this video. Alright, before we begin, a necessary disclosure. Moza has provided this product for me to review. They, however, have had no input on this video and have not seen it before publication. Moza is also a sponsor of this channel, however, and as always, all thoughts and opinions here are entirely my own. Alright, first things first, what you get here is pretty straightforward. You get 4 actuators, the cups where they'll sit on, mounting brackets to be used on aluminum profile rigs of varying sizes, necessary cables, a sizable power supply, and a small plastic USB hub, and that's about it. Very interestingly, and to me being a massive upside, you don't get a big separate control box like you do in many other platforms. Instead, Moza has completely integrated this into the actuators themselves, so once you plug everything in and spend some time cable managing it, well, you get a very subtle and clean look. Now, one thing to note, however, is that 2 cables come out of each actuator, and if you don't carefully cable manage these, well, they can get totally squished when the system turns off and drops down. So I really think that Moza should have a little clip here to help cable manage and prevent that from happening. Now, like I also said in the intro of this video, well, after several dozens of hours of use, the system actually totally failed on me. You see, I began getting motor error messages on the software, it completely refused to start, and it happened seemingly out of nowhere. So after hours of troubleshooting, what ended up happening is that in my unit, well, during production, one of the cables inside of my rear left actuator actually got pinched down when the top cap was mounted in the factory. So after extended use, this cable eventually reached its breaking point and caused the system to fail entirely. Now, the fix was pretty easy, and Moza was very helpful. With instructions that they provided, I cut off the broken part of the wire, I soldered it back in, and all in all, it was about a 20-minute fix, but it's still something quite concerning for Moza if this becomes a common problem long term, and it's certainly not something that anybody should have to do in the first place with a premium motion system like this. Now, other than that though, this system has been perfectly reliable when used for close to 10 hours straight or even outside in the heat, and one of the biggest gripes that I originally had with it has also since been addressed. You see, at first, this came with a comically loud power supply that as soon as you plugged it in, it literally sounded like a jet engine. But thankfully, Moza has since changed this. They sent me the new one, and now I don't really even notice it. Okay, so now that I've covered what's included, what I've learned, what has gone wrong, and what has been fixed, let's talk about the specs, how this performs, and why $3,000, despite still being a ton of money, is actually quite competitive. For starters, Moza has developed this platform entirely on their own, and its specs are commendable. The actuators have a 150mm stroke, a max speed of 300mm per second, and peak accelerations of over 1 G's of force. Now, it's a 3-degree of freedom system, meaning that it has pitch, roll, and heave movements, and it even has built-in haptics, which I'll talk about later. The pitch movement controls front and back tilt, which mimics braking and acceleration. The roll moves the system side to side for fueling cornering and weight transfer, and then the heave does vertical up and down movements for bumps, curbs, and elevation changes. And of course, all put together, it can be really good, but with the wrong settings, conversely, it can actually be really bad to the point where you're just doing yourself more harm than good. For this exact reason, I spent a lot of time fine-tuning the settings, and I got it to a point where, all things considered, I'm actually quite happy with it. The actuators react quickly, and I never felt any obvious delay between what was happening in the sim and what the platform was doing. Now that said, the standard settings included here were honestly not good. Everything was far too aggressive, especially the pitch and roll, and instead of adding useful information, the platform was mostly just throwing me around. Of course, this does show off the capabilities of the hardware itself, but again, it's just not realistic. So I spent a lot of hours playing around with the new Moza Motion software, which admittedly is quite intuitive, and after, again, many hours of tinkering, I got it to a point where I personally really liked it, and it became not only very immersive, but also very enjoyable. You see, taking it out on track, the pitch is adding a noticeable sense of braking and acceleration, the roll helps weight transfer through corners, and the heave makes elevation changes and curves feel much more physical. It's also worth noting that these movements did not feel artificial or robotic, especially when tuned well, they really felt quite natural, smooth, and analog. Now, as per the noise, well, mechanical sounds from the actuators and vibrations coming from the brake are obviously noticeable, but also not too out of the ordinary. The included cups do a good job at absorbing the vibrations and preventing them from moving onto the floor, and then if you pair this with a floor mat, for example this one for ModdedSim.com, the noise output, again, while noticeable, wasn't too crazy. Now, unfortunately, the built-in haptics here are less impressive. You see, while they do add vibrations to the rig and are most noticeable over curves or when locking the brakes, those effects are cool and give the platform a bit more texture, but they are not especially strong or well-defined. I personally found that a lot of the vibrations felt similar, and it can be difficult to tell exactly what the system is trying to communicate. So for this reason, I would still use a separate haptic solution. Dedicated pedal motors, bass shakers, or a seat-based system can provide much clearer and more localized feedback. So the haptics included here are a nice extra, but not something that I would consider a replacement. I also will not personally claim that the HMA150 system made me faster. And that's honestly well because in most situations, the extra movement can actually make it harder to be precise, especially under braking or when trying to repeat the exact same inputs every lap. So for serious competition, I would probably turn it off or at least just run it at a much more restrained profile. Now on the contrary, where this does make a lot of sense is of course for immersion, for casual driving, trying different cars, driving in VR, or letting someone else experience the simulator for the first time. The motion adds a lot. It is fun, it looks impressive, and when properly tuned, it makes the simulator feel, well, literally alive.
Caution, to right.
So, in conclusion, the HMA150 is not something that every sim racer needs. At the end of the day, for $3,000, it still costs more than many complete setups, it requires a rigid cockpit, and does add complexity. Like I said, I would also not treat motion as a competitive upgrade. It has not made me faster, and for serious racing, well, I personally still prefer the consistency of a stationary rig. But where the HMA150 succeeds is, of course, in immersion. Braking, elevation changes, compressions, curves, and weight transfer become physical sensations rather than something that you only see and hear. It makes casual driving more engaging, VR more convincing, and the overall simulator far more memorable. The value here also makes more sense when you compare it with other four-actuator systems, many of which cost significantly more and may still require additional hardware like bulky control boxes. Now, some alternatives are admittedly more refined from a performance standpoint, but at $3,000, the HMA150 is extremely competitive within an expensive category. That said, there are still first-generation concerns. Moza needs to ensure that the internal cable failure that I experienced remains isolated. They need to improve the standard tuning profiles and prove that they can support a complex mechanical product in the long term. Even with those caveats though, after several months of use, multiple events, and extensive testing, I do understand the appeal of this. It has been extremely fun, and for someone who already owns a high-end simulator and wants a major improvement in immersion, the Moza HMA150 does deliver just that. And then of course for Moza, well, just bringing full cockpit motion to this price is a significant achievement, and really a huge win for sim racing as a whole.